it, the rhyme it is wicked. Those that don't know how to be pros get evicted. A woman could bear you, break you, take you. Now it's time to rhyme. Can you relate?
Throughout history, women have made countless contributions to society, but have also faced many obstacles of oppression along the way. For too long, our stories have been forgotten and our voices silenced. We study history to avoid making the same mistakes in the future and to fight the inequalities that still persist to this day. But we can't do that if we continue to brush women's history under a rug or exclude it from our textbooks. So, today we'd like to take some time to reflect on that history and draw inspiration for the future, starting with some statistics.
At the current rate, gender equality in the highest places of power will not be reached for another 130 years.
Nearly 1 in 3 college men say that they would rape a woman if they knew that they would not suffer any consequences for it.
Women only held 28% of managerial positions globally in 2019.
Both women and men spent twice as much time on unpaid domestic work and care work during the pandemic. Women still spent about 2 more hours per day than men.
Of the world's 774 million illiterate adults, 2/3 are women, and the share of illiterate women has not changed for the past 20 years.
In 2019, 25 to 85% of all American women experienced sexual harassment in their workplace.
In 2019, women accounted for 27% of workers in STEM qualified industries and made, on average, 19% less than men in the same positions.
In 2020, a day after International Women's Day, millions of Mexican women participated in a strike called A Day Without Us. They refused to go to school, go to work, or participate in any social functions for a day in order to highlight just how important women are and to protest against the violence and abuse faced by women in Mexico. Femicides have increased by 137%, 4 times higher than the rate of general homicide.
The proportion of women in the labor force who had earned college degrees has nearly quadrupled since 1970.
A record percentage of women are currently serving in Congress, making up just over a quarter of all members.
39 place settings exist in the remarkable art installation created by artist Judy Chicago and now housed at the Brooklyn Museum. The 39 place settings trace the history of phenomenal women from the primordial goddess of ancient times to the artist Georgia O'Keeffe of the mid-20th century.
According to the Department of Labor, 82% of social workers are women. In fact, women represent the majority of speech-language pathologists with 98%, physical therapists with 69%, and pharmacists with 60%.
This March, Beyoncé won her 28th Grammy, tying her for the second most Grammy wins in history. And Taylor Swift became the first woman to win Album of the Year 3 times.
47% of countries have had a female head of state.
We're not trying to tell one type of women's history, but every woman's history. And that means including trans women, women of color, LGBTQ+ women, every woman under the sun. Race, ethnicity, sexuality, religion, there are just so many defining factors of the female experience, and our feminism should acknowledge and reflect them and their intersections. Women of all types have been hidden figures for too long, so now we're going to give them just some of the recognition they deserve.
Patsy Takemoto Mink was an attorney who became the first woman of color elected to Congress in 1965. She was the first Asian American to ever run for president. She wrote Title IX, which prevents sex-based discrimination in schools, and advocated for the rights of women and people of color throughout her entire career.
The first electronic, general-purpose digital computer was programmed by 6 women. This was part of a secret World War II project, so when it was actually revealed in 1946, the women got no credit whatsoever. This is a common trend we see throughout history, one of women not getting the credit they truly deserve for some of the most amazing innovations of humankind.
Stacey Abrams secured victory in 2020 for the Democrats, not only securing Biden's election, but flipping both of the state Senate seats blue by combating voter suppression and registering 800,000 Georgians to vote through her org, Fair Fight.
Ida B. Wells, she was a black journalist who was born into slavery and used her writing skills to expose the brutalities of racism and sexism in the late 19th century.
Geraldine Hines was the first Black woman to serve on the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Growing up in a segregated Mississippi, Justice Hines knew that she needed to find a way to improve our justice system. Justice Hines went on to work at an MIT fellowship to research policies regarding police misconduct in communities of color. In her law career, she addressed issues such as discrimination in the education system and also in special education. And she also founded the first all-Black women law firm in New England.
In 1917, Loretta Walsh became the first woman allowed to serve in any of the U.S. Armed Forces as anything other than a nurse when she enlisted in the Navy.
Irene Morgan was an African-American woman who was arrested in 1944 Virginia when she refused to give up her bus seat. She later appealed to the Supreme Court in 1946, with the court ruling on her side. However, Virginia and the other southern states refused to uphold it, which then led to protests such as the Freedom Rides.
Marie Curie became the first female Nobel laureate when she won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903. She also became the first female professor at the Sorbonne University in Paris. Professor Curie went on to win another Nobel Prize for her discovery of the elements radium and polonium, and for her extraction of pure radium from pitchblende. She was the first and to date only person to win Nobel Prizes in 2 sciences.
When I think of an influential feminist figure, I think of Frida Kahlo. She endured physical and personal pain, and she was able to channel that pain and turn it into beauty through her art.
Christika Jorgensen, a World War II veteran, became the first American transgender woman to attain fame for having sex reassignment surgery. Her story has influenced many others and helped redefine gender identity in the US.
Madonna Louise Ciccone, the Queen of Pop, is a revolutionary across generations, paving the way for female artists today. She's helped break barriers embracing her own sexuality, gender stereotypes through her music, fashion, public persona, and also through her decades of LGBTQ activism at the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Madonna epitomizes women empowering women, once quoted saying, "As women, we have to start appreciating our own worth and each other's own worth. Seek out strong women to befriend, to align yourself with, to learn from, to collaborate with, to be inspired by, to support, and enlightened by."
All of these women have shaped history and deserve to be recognized throughout our history textbooks, just as much as anyone else. Young girls need strong role models like them to look up to and aspire to. But let's take a moment to appreciate all the women in our lives with this moving clip from Class 2's Orania, because they really do make such a big difference in all of our lives, more than we can ever thank them for.
I'd like to recognize every woman and girl who has stood before me, stands beside me today, and will stand after me. First, to my mother, who sacrificed her entire being for me, and has taught me compassion and empathy, for which I hope to reciprocate to her and everyone else. To my grandmother, who fed me and taught me so that I may feed the younger and older of today. To my female teachers, who've taught me knowledge I will carry before me to share with all, in and outside the classroom. To my girls, who've taught me everything in between, alongside sharing great memories and memes. To the females whose names I recognize, whether for their accolades or faced adversities, and to females whose names and experiences I do not know, and may never know or understand, as time succeeds me. Thank you to all the women and girls who encourage me to improve upon myself each and every day and the world around me.